Yo, what's going on, my good people? It's your host, Six Paths Dunga, back again with another hot takes video. You guys have been dropping your hot takes and predictions for the past few days, and now it's finally time to start reacting to them. But before we start, as always, make sure you drop a like on the video and also hype up the video. If we can get about 100 people to hype up the video, then it'll help the channel get even more recognition in the YouTube algorithm, which would help our community really grow. So of course, I got my 10 comments that I'm going to feature in the video right here next to me. For anybody new that don't know what's going on, basically every single month, a few days before we get the spoilers for the next chapter, I make a post telling you guys to drop your hot takes or predictions for that chapter. Then I choose 10 comments out the bunch that stick out from the rest and go over them with you guys. I do this thing every single month, so don't worry if your comment didn't get chosen. There's always next month. But anyway, let's get into the first comment of the day. So we'll start off pretty easy and straightforward. We need that Momo and Boruto flashback with the quickness. I'm glad I picked this comment first because I don't think I mentioned enough how likely it really is that we get a flashback for next chapter. At the ending of chapter 28, Boruto just activated his karma seal for the first time since like chapter 78 or 79. And not only activated it, he's actually going to fight with it. This is a big deal because he did something that seemed like taboo for him to do for the longest time. For the majority of Tubu Vortex, whenever Ikimoto does flashbacks, it's usually after something significant happens. You won't see him starting off a chapter with a flashback and nothing important is occurring. The first flashback we got was in chapter 5, the chapter right after the Shinju were born and Kashin Koji was revealed to be alive. But most importantly, we've seen what happened to Sasuke. So I'm pretty sure we can all agree that this is significant. The next flashback was in chapter 13, right after Boruto and Sarada defeated Hidari and briefly retrieved his Thorn Soul. This marked the first time we've seen a Shinju be defeated, and we've seen a Thorn Soul for the first time. Now the third flashback was a few chapters later. This is where we see Boruto training to master FTG and talking to Koji, where he first mentions the singularities of fate. The previous chapter, Ryu was born and Boruto and Kawaki agrees to put their beef aside until after Jura is defeated. And I don't have to mention the flashback in chapter 21, we all know what happened in the chapter prior. So yeah, every time something significant happens, what happens is we get a flashback, happen more times than not. And it just so happens that this scene may actually call for a flashback. Before the conversation between these two ended back in chapter 25, it seemed like it was cut short prematurely, mostly because we didn't get to see whether Momoshiki accepted Boruto's proposition. So maybe come chapter 29, we'll not only see Momoshiki's actual reaction to Boruto saying this, but we'll also get to see any other conditions to the deal that wasn't shown to us at first. And believe it or not, that's not the only topic we can possibly get a flashback on. Even though it's not nearly as likely, we could see a flashback of Sumire and Boruto. Remember, Sumire said she added a special material in his sword that of course she didn't reveal to us at the time. And if this quote-unquote special material is something that has to do with Otsutsuki chakra or some sort of power, it could be revealed to us this upcoming chapter now that Boruto has brought upon his Otsutsuki power. But more times than not, I'm pretty sure a flashback that entails Boruto and Momoshiki might be in play. Let me know what you guys think. Okay, so moving on, Boruto Karma V1 versus Mamushi, Kawaki noticing Boruto's karma usage, Code finds Kashin Koji, Boruto Aura Farm slices 4 clones at once, Jura sees through Mamushi's eyes and sends Hidari, Hidari interferes in the section where Sarada is fighting Mamushi, Momoshiki flashback, major cliffhanger, Boruto gets pressured, Damon goes down and Himawari gets injured. Okay, so Boruto versus Mamushi, that's a given. I think we can all agree that this fight is going to happen next chapter. Otherwise, that would be a huge disappointment. It's better to sell high while the anticipation is at its peak. I do find the Kawaki part a bit more interesting though, because what would he say now that Boruto is just able to use the karma now? I'm pretty sure he remembers the last time this happened, and the last time he tried to use it, he's seen he couldn't control it. So the question that we have to answer is, what would Kawaki do if he knew there was a possibility that Momoshiki could emerge? Because he doesn't know about the deal they made, unless Boruto tells him. So would Kawaki just take matters into his own hands and try to kill Boruto before Momoshiki emerges? Or would Boruto tell Kawaki about the deal to ease his mind? And then we gotta ask ourselves, would Kawaki just go along with it? So when it comes to Kawaki, Boruto has to watch out because he'll be the one to act the most skeptical. So if you ask me, I'd rather not let him know, or find a way to do it without him finding out, which will be hard because Kawaki can just sense his otsutsuki essence. So that can possibly interfere with Boruto being able to use the karma for a long period of time. He also mentioned Code in this comment. It seems whenever we see Code, it's really a surprise. He just pops up out of nowhere, with no build up or foreshadowing, nothing. So we can't count him out. Code is obviously moving more careful right now. Nowadays, it's nothing he could do just by forcing his will. There's too many characters stronger than him at the moment. One wrong move and he'll be defeated again. But this time, he will be killed off for good. So Code is moving differently, more vigilant, just hiding in the shadows and observing, trying to find any leads on Boruto and Kashinkoji. But once he finds a lead, and of course waits until the right time, he'll attack. And with all the commotion going on in Konoha right now, I think this is the perfect time for Code to make a move. All the characters that could just body him is all out dealing with mamushi. Boruto, Kawaki, Sarada, and even Damon. They're all trying to protect Eida at the moment. So there's going to be a lot of commotion in Konoha. So while using that as a distraction, and with Koji and Inojin the only ones at the hideout, it's possible we could see Code simply pull up on Koji and try to eliminate him. But Code would have to wait until the pressure is at its highest, when the fighting in Konoha reaches its peak, because you want to ensure you're doing this without any distractions. So it has to be a time where Boruto using FTG to go save Koji is not an option, because the only person that can get to that hideout is Boruto. That's it. So he's the only one in the way. Everyone else doesn't know of Koji's involvement yet, besides Shikamaru. Kawaki may have his suspicions, but even if he knew, he wouldn't be able to get there in time. So yeah, Code's second assault has a very high chance of happening. And I don't believe Koji is stronger than Code. I mean, if anyone would find a way to lose that, it would definitely be Code. But yeah, Code pulling up on Koji is a real threat. And I want to make sure everybody knows that before we go into this next chapter. I actually believe I haven't thought about that. That's actually a great point he brought up. So he then says Jura sends Hidari to fight, but I don't think that's as likely as the first two he mentioned. Only because if Hidari would go, it would only be for Sarada and nothing else. But he would have been did that when she fought against Ryu. What purpose would Jura send Hidari there? To save Mamushi? He didn't do it for Matsuri or Ryu either, so I don't know if we'll see him in this arc. It's a possibility, but I'm gonna say no. Jura isn't even that kind of leader. He really lets each of the Shinju move as they please and follow their own instincts, as long as their actions don't inconvenience him. Okay, so let's move on to the next comment. Let's waste no time. So what do we have here? Kawaki Masterclass, Boruto potentially using Ice Release as well, and maybe a Kawaki and Sarada collab. Now, I do think Kawaki will show out crazy at first, showing the most power we have ever seen from him. Last time we seen him, he was getting another one of his cyborg buffs from Amato, but that might be short-lived because, like Amato said, it's all useless if his body can't contain all that power. And he warned him it would happen if he accepted all that power. But Kawaki didn't care, he was simply hungry for more power. I actually believe all that greed will come back to haunt him, and sooner than we think. And I talked about this in a few of my other videos, so I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm repeating myself, but this is gonna end up bad for Kawaki. He'll probably show in a big way at first, but it'll be short-lived because during this fight, his body might give out, causing him to overheat and lose consciousness. And it's not like we haven't seen it before. It happened right after he fought Guru. I think that's how you say his name, I'm not too sure. I hope I didn't say it wrong. But anyway, whenever that may be or whoever he might be fighting with, Kawaki is gonna face the repercussions of being too hasty and playing with technology he doesn't truly understand. And that's gonna cause the other person or people he's with to protect him. And also he did mention Boruto using Ice Release, but as much as I wouldn't mind seeing this happen, I don't think we'll see anything like that. True Ice Release is a Kekkei Genkai, which Boruto doesn't possess. He can mimic Ice Release while combining Water and Wind Release like Sasuke was able to do a while ago, but it was an inferior version and not that strong at all. So even if Boruto was able to, it wouldn't be suitable for combat, especially against a Shinju, and it's just as simple as that. I hope that we get to see some combined jutsus, What I mean is Boruto's abilities buffed or with added effects from Momoshiki's abilities. It would make sense since Boruto is 100% otsutsuki, and we have seen Momoshiki making a new form of Rasengan, the Rasendan. So why not do something similar here where Boruto uses one of Momoshiki's abilities thanks to karma and makes a variant of it. I actually made a video on that. All of the abilities that we might see Boruto do now. Go ahead and click on it if you want to see what I said in that video, but to shortly summarize it, I said that since Momoshiki is granting Boruto full use over his power, it would give him access to more of his otsutsuki abilities. I brought up abilities like those Ishiki chakra rods, even though he can't make them appear out of thin air like Ishiki, or maybe Rasendan, since it is technically Momoshiki's ability. I did mention more powers in that video, that's not all. I'll leave it down in the description if you want to watch a full video of me just deep diving on that. Okay, so the fifth comment of the day, the chapter will probably start with a flashback or discussion between Boruto and Momoshiki, highlighting their agreement / the side effects of it. Possibly even Momoshiki instructing Boruto how to use the karma. The chapter will end with a scheme or a hidden truth being revealed. So basically the same thing as the first comment, but I thought the notion that Momoshiki would teach Boruto about the karma secrets is a good idea. The best way to maximize the odds of Boruto defeating Jura is to literally tell him how to better utilize the otsutsuki power. Something that would have been impossible for Boruto unless he and Momoshiki forged some kind of agreement. And we see now, because of their agreement, something like this would be likely. And it still flows into the lines of Momoshiki's character. He wouldn't be doing it out of the kindness of his heart. He has an ulterior motive behind this, and this choice aligns with his goals. There's many secrets to the karma and plenty of ways to utilize it. Boruto in particular isn't very good at the basics, like absorbing chakra and, space-time ninjutsu. So him learning how to do some of these things in the heat of battle would be pretty cool to see. I think everyone is downplaying the Jogan's appearance. I feel like Sumire used Nue's power on the sword. In the anime, Boruto's Jogan showed few very times, but one of them was during the Nue arc in his academy days. So it's true, Boruto's Jogan did have a very distinct connection with Nue's chakra, but it really wasn't specified why that is. They kind of used that as a teaser for Boruto's Jogan in the anime. It's really hard to say that for sure, because it hasn't even been confirmed of what was used on the sword, or if it even has any connection to Nue. But let's say it does, because that's a fun thing to do. If it does, then I do think that could be some future foreshadowing for a Jogan awakening, but not as direct as it may seem. If Nue is introduced into the manga, it could be different than the anime. Instead of it being a literal yokai, it could simply be a forbidden chakra-like power, derived from the otsutsuki. And if it's like that, then it makes sense that it resonates with Boruto's Jogan, or has some type of correlation to its awakening. But other than that, it's really hard to say anything about Nue, especially since we just don't know if it's really going to be a thing. It's definitely been foreshadowed before though, so I will say there's a possibility. It's all a matter of when it will happen. So moving on, we have Eida will get turned into a tree and the Shinju will be the last panel, and Kawaki or Amada will be the target. So this was a possibility I talked about last week. Eida being turned into a Shinju could be the result of another timeline being born from them trying to save her from being absorbed. Time is a difficult concept to grasp. By trying to avoid one future, you could be subconsciously creating another future that could be worse if you're not careful. So the fact that in one of Kashin Koji's visions, Eida was getting devoured by Mamushi, that confirms that there is a future where Eida gets confronted by him, meaning the operation to kill Mamushi before he reaches Eida could fail. If that future pans out, something different could happen. Maybe this time, Eida doesn't get devoured, but attacked by a claw grime. That could be the alternative to the future where she gets devoured, which would create an Eida Shinju. And this future will only manifest if they apply enough pressure on Mamushi for him to summon the claw grimes, in which they use for distraction purposes more times than not. So it would have to be a situation like that for Eida to officially become a Shinju. And if Eida were to become a Shinju, I think her target would either be Sarada or Sumire. And I don't know if Ikimoto would want to do that, just because Sarada is already being targeted by another Shinju. So maybe it would just be Sumire. But if that's the case, it wouldn't make too much sense because they're both considered her closest friends. So the target thing would be questionable, but what wouldn't be questionable is the fact that both Sarada and Sumire would be the ones to defeat her somehow. just because of how the story successfully foreshadowed a potential conflict between Eida and Konoha, and the fact that the only ones that are capable of defeating her is both Sarada and Sumire. And you have that moment where Eida herself says she wouldn't mind them being the ones to kill her if necessary. So the setup is there if that's the direction Ikimoto wants to go. And if we do get an Eida Shinju or something exciting like that, I would be all for it. It would be one of the strongest Shinju, I'll tell you that right now. Boruto deactivates the karma, they continue battling, and as they are battling, more reports appear. Kawaki deviates to those locations, and the others follow pursuit. Konoha ninja randos appear, they observe and try to catch Boruto off guard. Mamushi attacks them, Boruto saves them, and they make the choice to help him. Okay, while I think that Boruto doesn't deactivate the karma, because there's literally no reason for him to, I gotta emphasize the likelihood of random Konoha shinobi getting in the way of his fight. Shikamaru already said there's a big possibility of this happening. Konoha still views Boruto as an enemy, so if they see him, they won't be too friendly. The only question is, what would Boruto do if this were to happen? And what would the others do to prevent this from happening? I mean, you could say that they might work with Boruto to defeat a common enemy, but if not, how would he get out that situation? You know what, let me know what you all think Boruto would do in that situation. Would he try to protect the Konoha shinobi from Mamushi, or fight against the shinobi who try and interfere with the operation? And it would all be for the embetterment of Konoha, so there's really no right or wrong answer. But just knowing who Boruto is as a character, what do you think he would do? Jura planned a secret plan behind the scenes, where he told Mamushi to split himself and spread across Konoha. His plan to go after Eida and his clones to spread in Konoha is just a cover-up plan for the real plan, where Jura is going to go after Naruto without anyone interfering because they will be busy on eliminating Mamushi and his clones. Yeah, I suppose that would work if Jura actually knew where Naruto was. And nothing in the story has even insinuated that he has an idea where Naruto is. All he knows is that he's alive. And it's not a stretch to say that he knows it has something to do with Kawaki, but nothing for sure. If he finds Naruto, he would have to come to the realization that he's in another dimension, and that goes into learning how Kawaki's ability even works, which he hasn't talked about not once. But somehow it wouldn't surprise me because Jura's knowledge on the world around him keeps expanding every single day, even knowing about the flying Raijin without anyone telling him. So I'm not saying that it's not possible for Jura to deduce that Naruto is in another dimension, I'm saying that it could be too soon. I fully expect him to figure it out sooner or later though. Jura is just too smart not to figure it out. And once he does, it's gonna be absolutely crazy to see. So moving on to the last comment of the day, we have Boruto is going to beat up Mamushi, Kawaki also joining in the battle to help. I don't think Kawaki's gonna do anything crazy in the next chapter. I think this chapter will heavily focus on the Boruto and Mamushi battle. And maybe in the end, a cliffhanger of Jura attacking Himawari in her house, because as we've seen in chapter 28, Mamushi damaged some buildings, and maybe that could cause Jura to interfere. Boruto versus Mamushi will be a pretty good fight. I don't know if that's the majority of what we will see, because there's so many things going on in Konoha simultaneously, so it's hard to really focus on one specific thing. And I don't know why everyone thinks Jura is somehow going to be involved in this. Koji said Jura isn't coming if Himawari and Boruto stay in Konoha. And even if he does come, it won't be because Mamushi set a building on fire. The idea of him not fighting in Konoha is to minimize the destruction, not create more, because that's exactly what he'll be doing if he comes to Konoha. So it really doesn't make sense that Jura is in Konoha here. And we literally just seen him too. So there's really no way it happens, unless Mamushi really starts going crazy in Konoha. But even then, he'll be there to teach Mamushi a lesson, not going after Himawari. And Mamushi's fear of Jura will prevent him from doing that anyway. So I'm pretty confident that's not gonna happen. But hey, I respect that y'all are fans of Jura. He got aura, I get it. But we ain't seeing him in Konoha fighting in this arc. I'm sorry. But that's it for the hot takes. We had some really good ones, some I didn't even think about myself. That's why I love doing this, because it gets me thinking too. It gets me thinking about potential future narratives, especially the one about Code. I think that one was my favorite. So I will be going live for chapter 29 spoilers. If you guys want to see that, make sure you guys subscribe and turn them noties on. Like I said, I do this kind of thing every single month, so don't be upset if I didn't pick your comment, because there's always next month. I appreciate the fact that you guys even commented anyway. That much is enough. and I definitely read every comment to be sure that I picked the spiciest ones. So don't think I didn't see it, because I did. But anyway, like always, if you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to drop that like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the post notifications for more videos like this, or when I go live for chapter spoilers. And until my next one, I'll see you boys and girls later. And I'm out. Peace.